Now, let's get you the latest in the UK political crisis, the latest amid that turmoil that's happening in Britain. The resignation of Liz Truss has left the ruling Conservative Party scrambling for another leadership contest to elect a new UK Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt are seen leading the race, but no formal declarations have been made yet. Sources close to former Prime Minister Boris Johnson have not confirmed or denied speculation that he will stand again. Now, candidates to replace Liz Truss will need support of 100 MPs to join the Tory race. The nominations close on Monday. The political developments come despite growing calls for fresh general election and massive economic turmoil in the country.
Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
So who will be the next UK Prime Minister? That's the big question, and people in the UK say we don't know yet. So that's the issue that the UK is grappling with at the moment. Who will be their next Prime Minister? Will it be Rishi Sunak? Will it be Penny Mordaunt? Will Boris Johnson run again for the Prime Ministership? Or will it be someone else? That's the question. Let's go across to Srinjoy to understand what's going on in UK. Srinjoy, there's this huge political turmoil in the UK. The resignation of Liz Truss has thrown the entire Conservative Party scrambling for another leadership race. What next? Who are the front runners there?
Who knows? He could well be a candidate. As far as Rishi Sunak is concerned, he fought for the role and he got 42% of the vote, which is not a small amount. Liz Truss got 58. Now the question is, does he want to do this again? Because the elections are about a year away, and at this point, it's a very difficult job. To win that next election is not going to be easy. The Labour Party has a very firm lead, and especially if there is a Lib-Lab alliance, then the Conservatives perhaps are doomed. But the important thing to check now is who are the people in the race. Is it going to be Boris Johnson all over again? It is possible. And it's knowing Boris Johnson and his support in the Conservative Party, it is entirely possible. Rishi Sunak has his supporters. So do people like Jeremy Hunt, Ben Wallace, all these people, Penny Mordaunt, they are all in the race. We will have to see how this turns out, because now the 3 lakh members of the Conservative Party will have a choice. And of course, they will include all the important leaders and of course, all the MPs. So we will have to see. Within a week, there will be a name. First, we will have to wait and see who is interested, because many Conservative leaders believe it is a poisoned chalice. Secondly, then if there is a short list of leaders who are keen, then we will have to see who among them are part of the runoff and who actually wins. We are still a few days away from that.
Srinjoy, let's also talk about the brief prime ministership of Liz Truss. She's gone in 45 days. Isn't it a tale of a gigantic political failure?
It's a disaster. She could well go down as the Lady Jane Grey of British politics in the 21st century. Lady Jane Grey in the 16th century was the Queen of England, and she lasted 9 days. So well, you can say Liz Truss did better than Lady Jane Grey, but it has to be said that her policies from the beginning were wrong. She wanted a cut in taxes, and those tax cuts were not things that the people of England wanted, the financial sector wanted. Strangely enough, the tax cuts were really for the rich, not for the poor, was the assessment. So if that is so, then people were even more upset. And after that, it had to be said that when she did become Prime Minister, she sacked her Chancellor of the Exchequer, and then the new Chancellor of the Exchequer came up with policies that were completely, radically different from the Prime Minister's. They were actually very similar to Rishi Sunak's, or what Rishi Sunak had suggested he would do when he became Prime Minister. So that was a huge snub for Liz Truss. Then, of course, you had a problem with her Secretary of Home, the equivalent of Home Minister of India. I mean, she sent an email from a wrong account. I mean, this kind of failure of information security also caused more problems for her, more embarrassment for her. So it got to a stage when she just couldn't continue to be Prime Minister. You can't sack the equivalent of half your cabinet committee on security and then continue to be Prime Minister. She sacked her finance secretary, she sacked her Chancellor of the Exchequer, she sacked her Home Secretary, and then there was no other way. She had to go herself. So it was a disaster as far as these 45 days are concerned. The pound was in very bad shape. It kept sinking against the dollar. Inflation continued, and the economy was in doldrums. So there was no choice but to resign.
Srinjoy, one final question to you. You know how, like you were saying that I mean, there was no way that she could have continued given the disaster that was happening when the policies that she was fighting for touched the reality or met with reality. Now, how can the Conservative Party emerge from this disaster? I mean, how difficult will it be for them?
The next Prime Minister has a poison chalice before him, because at this point, the Conservatives have a year and there are elections. If the elections are held now, the Labour Party, or at least an alliance between the Labour and the Liberal parties, if that happens, will definitely win. The Conservatives will not win. So if that is so, then the next Prime Minister will have perhaps a year to shape policy in the hope that this will change things to an extent that the next election can be won. Now, whoever becomes Prime Minister will have to face this reality. First of all, what Jeremy Hunt has done has actually completely changed what Liz Truss initially said she would do. So that actually is a step in the right direction. But after that, there are a lot of things that have to be done. Also, the fact that in these 4 months, Britain has had two monarchs. Of course, that is no fault of Liz Truss, but 2 prime ministers and a number of 4 chancellors of the Exchequer, and also quite a few home secretaries. I mean, this is very disorienting for the voters of Britain. They want some stability, and they feel that perhaps with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, they will get some stability, because what they have seen over these 3, 4, 5 years has really been a bit of a circus. Boris Johnson may have been very good with India. He and Narendra Modi have a very good relationship, and this was a way that this was helping India and Britain to rebuild the relationship.
Yes.
But on the domestic front, he was a failure. And then you have seen what Liz Truss has done in these 45 days. So this has been a disaster, these 4 years. So as a result, the people of Britain, the voters of Britain, really want someone who will provide a stable government. So perhaps the Labour Party, Keith Starmer, though again Keith Starmer will have problems with India, hopefully he will not, will be able to provide some stability to Britain. And then with this stability will come ability to check inflation, the ability to strengthen the pound and build the economy.
All right, Srinjoy, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us with those details and that perspective on the UK political turmoil.